They said he was a saint, the man who gave to charities, the man who preached about women empowerment. But that afternoon, everything changed. Amalia stepped forward, her voice sharp as a blade. "Ask him where Ruth is." He spun toward her, rage blazing. You did this!" Before anyone could move, she kicked him hard in the chest. The hall went dead silent as his body slammed into the wine table. Glasses shattered, reporters froze. Everyone's eyes turned toward the woman who dared to defy him. Then Victoria's voice broke through the silence, cold, clear, unstoppable. "That's your hero, everyone. The man who preaches about women while burying them in shame." Cut to gasps, phones raised, security rushing in, lights flashing. If you're just joining us, welcome to this channel, Folktales by Bees, where real stories come alive. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Lagos, South Africa, Canada, New York, Nairobi. We see you, we love you, and your support means everything. But how did it get to this? How did a billionaire's perfect world crumble in a single night? And how did one woman's courage turn his lies into headlines? Don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, because we have more powerful, emotional, and mind-blowing stories coming your way, stories that will keep you thinking long after the credits roll. The hall shimmered under crystal lights. Every table at the Sterling estate gleamed with gold cutlery, tall wine glasses, and the quiet sound of admiration. It was the night everyone had been waiting for, the engagement dinner between Amalia Reed and Ethan Sterling. To the guests, it was a love story wrapped in class and wealth. To Amalia, it was a cage lined with silk. She stood by the head table holding a silver tray, her hand steady, though her heart was not. Charles Sterling, Ethan's father, sat like a king at the center of attention. His suit was perfect, his laughter soft and practiced. When Amalia poured him wine, he smiled a smile that meant nothing and everything. Then his hand brushed hers. It lingered for a second too long. The cameras flashed, the guests clapped. Amalia's eyes froze. "Thank you, my dear," Charles said in that deep, polished tone that melted crowds and hid cruelty. She nodded and forced a smile, pretending not to notice the slight pressure of his fingers. But inside, she wanted to scream. Around the table, everyone kept talking about how generous he was, how he built schools, funded hospitals, and helped widows. They called him a saint. They didn't know the truth. The real Charles Sterling used money to wash his sins. And his sins were buried deep in the same house that made him a hero. When the dinner ended, Amalia walked through the corridor, leading to the servants' quarters. She needed air. The hall smelled like champagne and lies. She stopped when she heard a muffled sound coming from the kitchen. The lights were dim. Inside, she saw Ruth, the young maid, who had served the family for years, leaning against the counter, crying quietly. Her apron was wet. Her hands shook. "Ruth," Amalia said softly, stepping closer. The girl turned quickly, wiping her face. "Miss Amalia, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "What's wrong?" Amalia asked. "Tell me." Ruth looked down at the floor. "It's nothing. I don't feel well." Amalia stepped closer. "I noticed you've been quite unhappy for days, and your eyes are swollen. For how long have you been crying, Ruth?" Ruth hesitated, then whispered, "Mr. Charles said I should leave before anyone notices. He said it's for the best." Amalia frowned. "What do you mean for the best?" Ruth's voice broke. "He said I should get rid of it." Amalia froze. The words hit her like a slap. "You're pregnant?" Tears spilled from Ruth's eyes. "I told him to stop, but he wouldn't listen," she said in a trembling voice. "I didn't want to go through the pain again, the pain of the last 3 abortions I've had for him. The doctor warned me that my stomach is weak, and any more abortions could destroy my womb or even kill me. But he wouldn't listen. He still came to me, forced himself on me without protection, said he liked it that way and that nothing would happen. Please help me, Ma." Her whole body shook as she spoke, tears running down her face. Water rushed down Amalia's cheeks too as she listened, her heart pounding with rage and pity. She whispered, "Did you tell anyone?" Ruth shook her head quickly. "Who would believe me? He gives us food, pays our wages. Everyone says he's good. He said if I talk, he'll ruin me." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded envelope. He gave me this tonight. Said it's money for the clinic. Told me to fix it quietly. Amalia took the envelope. Inside were crisp notes and a small receipt from a private hospital. Her stomach turned. Ruth, don't do it. Don't go. I have to. Ruth whispered. He said if I don't, I'll lose everything. My job, my sister's school fees. He said he'll make sure no one ever hires me again. Amalia looked at the girl's face, so young, so tired. Some part of her wanted not to believe her because the Mr. Charles she knew was different from the Mr. Charles Ruth was describing. The man everyone loved, how could he? Why would he? Her thoughts raced. She told herself she had to stay calm. He can't keep doing this, Ruth. You can't let him win, okay? Just relax and don't do anything stupid. No abortion, you hear me? Say it after me, no abortion. Ruth tried to smile, but her lips trembled. You don't know what he's capable of, Miss Amalia. He's done this before. There was another maid. She said no too. They sent her away. A week later, she was gone. Amalia felt the world tilt. Gone where? Ruth's eyes filled again. Dead. They said it was a fever. But we all knew. She died after he forced her to do the same thing. The kitchen went silent. Only the hum of the refrigerator filled the room. Amalia placed her hand on Ruth's shoulder. Listen to me. You're not alone anymore. I'll handle this. Ruth shook her head. Please don't. If he finds out I told you, he'll kill me. Amalia's eyes burned, but her voice stayed calm. He won't. I promise. Ruth left that night with the envelope clutched in her hand. Amalia stood by the doorway and watched her disappear into the dark. The rain started soon after, soft and steady. Somewhere inside the house, Charles Sterling laughed with his guests, the sound echoing through the halls. That was the night Amalia made her choice. She wouldn't look away anymore. The world saw a man of honor. She had just met the devil that wore his face. The next morning, the Sterling estate was quiet. The party's laughter had faded into whispers. The newspaper headlines praised Charles Sterling's generosity once again, showing his photo beside Amalia's smiling face. But that photo felt like a lie she could no longer live inside. Amalia woke early, her heart heavy from what she saw the night before. She called Ruth's phone again and again, but there was no answer. The silence made her restless. When Ethan came by to check on her, she tried to explain everything. She told him what had happened in the kitchen the previous night, how Ruth was crying, how Mr. Charles had given her money and forced her to abort the child. Ethan sighed and rubbed his forehead. He dismissed her softly, saying she was overreacting and needed rest. You'll be fine, love. She'll be back at work soon, he said, forcing a smile. Amalia tried to convince him, repeating what Ruth told her, begging him to listen, but he walked away, saying, Don't get involved in staff matters. Left alone, she kept calling Ruth's number, whispering, Please pick up, please. Each unanswered ring only deepened her fear. By the fourth day, Ruth still didn't show up for work. Amalia's worry grew stronger until she finally confronted Mr. Collins in the corridor outside the dining room. When she asked where Ruth was, he barely blinked and replied that Ruth had taken some days off. His tone was too smooth, too prepared, like a line he had memorized long before she asked. There was something strange in the way he said it, no hesitation, no surprise, as if he had rehearsed those words many times before. While they spoke, Aisha was in the kitchen washing plates. She kept glancing toward them, her movements slow and stiff. Water ran over her hands as she listened quietly. There was worry in her eyes, the kind that comes from knowing more than she dared to say. When Mr. Collins turned his gaze toward her, she quickly looked down again, scrubbing the same plate over and over. The tension in the air made Amalia's chest tighten. Mr. Collins's calm voice didn't feel natural. It felt trained, controlled, and it left her uneasy, as if the whole story had been written before she even asked the question. Charles sat at the head of the table, reading his newspaper, humming softly. Such a beautiful night yesterday, he said. We made the front page again. Our family shines brighter than ever. The same man who smiled for cameras and loved by the people is sleeping with the maid, and even told the maid to abort the child. How do I do this? She said in her mind. her heart raising, while also praying for hear her knock on the door. I wanted to scream, trow the cup at his wife, to shout his screts loud, and even drag him across the table. But I have to remain calm till I see her. To know what she has done, and I will know what to do then. That afternoon, Amalia went to Ruth's small apartment near the market, as described by Aisha after she had pressured her to give the address. The door was unlocked. Inside, the bed was unmade, the curtains drawn, and a half-empty cup of tea sat cold on the table. The air smelled of iron and medicine. As Amalia stood frozen, 2 neighbors came out from the corridor and told her Ruth had been rushed to the hospital 2 nights ago. They said she had been vomiting blood after taking a strong contraceptive drug, and she never made it. Their voices were low, filled with fear. They said some rich people came later, paid the bills, took her body back to the village, and gave them money to keep quiet. Amalia's heart broke as the pieces fit together. She knew who those rich people were. She had seen him give Ruth the money himself. Now she realized he must have tied up all the loose ends, making sure the truth would never reach daylight. Tears filled her eyes. She sat on the edge of Ruth's bed and cried until she couldn't breathe. It wasn't just grief, it was fury, helpless and deep. Knowing the man praised by the world was the reason another young woman was dead. Amalia's hands shook as she read it. The word at the bottom made her throat close. Deceased. She sank to her knees. The room was silent except for her own breathing. Then came anger, deep, steady, quiet, the kind that doesn't fade. That evening she returned to the mansion. The laughter of guests drifted from the sitting room. She walked past them straight into the kitchen. Aisha was there, washing dishes with trembling hands. Aisha, Amalia said softly, I went to see Ruth. The girl froze. Water kept running over her fingers. You shouldn't have, she whispered. She's dead. Aisha's shoulders shook. The plate slipped from her hand and broke. She turned, eyes red. He said she fainted. He said she went to rest. Aisha wiped her tears with the back of her arm. I told her not to go. I told her it's dangerous. But she said she had no choice. He gave her money, and she thought it would save her. Now she's gone, like the others. The others? Aisha hesitated, then nodded. 2 before her. One from the laundry, another from the cleaning staff. They left after getting sick. No one ever saw them again. Mr. Collins says they were ungrateful girls. But I know. Amalia felt her stomach twist. Why hasn't anyone said anything? Aisha gave a hollow laugh. Who would believe us? He pays the police, the lawyers, even the church. We're just servants. Our voices don't count. Amalia leaned forward. They will, but I need proof. Documents, messages, anything. Aisha looked around, lowering her voice. Miss Elena might have something. She handles Mrs. Victoria's charity papers. That's where he hides things. Fake scholarships, fake donations, they're all hush money. Can you help me reach her? Aisha nodded slowly. She's afraid, but she hates him too. I'll tell her you're different. Amalia placed her hand gently on Aisha's. No one else needs to die because of him. We'll make them listen. That night, she went back to her room and sat by the window, watching the city lights shimmer beyond the gates. Ethan called her phone 3 times. She didn't answer. When he finally came upstairs, she was still staring out the window. Amalia, he said, his voice soft but distant. Father told me you're getting too close to the staff. You shouldn't be interfering. She turned to him slowly. Your father killed that girl. He flinched. She's dead, Ethan. The maid you all pretend not to see. He used her and forced her to abort his child. He stood there, stunned. That's impossible. My father isn't like that. Amalia rose, her eyes hard. You really don't know the man you call a father. Stop it, Amalia. You're upset. Don't let gossip confuse you. Her voice sharpened. Gossip doesn't come with death certificates. Ethan stepped back, his jaw tightening. Enough. You're crossing the line. I won't let you ruin my family's name. She laughed, a short, bitter sound. Your family's name is already ruined. You just don't know it yet. He left the room without another word. Later that night, Amalia wrote down everything Ruth told her: names, places, amounts. She hid the note inside her purse. Then she called Tara, her best friend. "Tara, I need your help," she said quietly. "I think I'm standing in the middle of something evil." Tara's voice on the other end was calm. "Start from the beginning." Amalia told her everything: the party, the kitchen, Ruth's pregnancy, the hospital papers. "Listen," Tara said. "Don't go to the police yet. We'll get proof first. Keep acting normal. They need to think you're still one of them." Amalia stared out into the night. "He thinks he's untouchable." "Then we'll touch him where it hurts," Tara said. "His reputation." By the next morning, the plan had begun. Tara reached out to an old contact in the press. Amalia scheduled a meeting with Elena under the pretense of helping with charity paperwork. Every move had to be quiet, careful, and perfect. But before she left her room, she paused and looked at herself in the mirror. Her reflection stared back calm, steady, unflinching. "This is not about revenge," she whispered. "It's about the truth." Downstairs, Charles Sterling laughed again, his voice echoing through the house like a sermon. He didn't know yet. But the women he had crushed were no longer silent. The night air at the Sterling estate was heavy with tension and the smell of rain. Amalia stood in the dimly lit garden, her face half hidden in the soft glow of the path lights. Across from her sat Mrs. Victoria Sterling, her trembling fingers wrapped around a porcelain teacup. Between them, Aisha's eyes darted nervously. Amalia spoke first. "You know the truth now, Mrs. Sterling. Ruth didn't die from any fever. He killed her." Victoria looked away, her voice a whisper. I suspected something, but I didn't want to believe it. Charles has always been difficult, but I never imagined." "You imagined," Amalia cut in coldly. "You just didn't want to see it." Victoria's breath caught, but she didn't argue. Her eyes were wet. "I kept silent to protect my family name, to protect Ethan. But that silence cost a life." Aisha stepped forward, voice trembling. "He's been watching me too, Ma. He said I remind him of someone. I've been avoiding him, but—" Amalia placed her hand on Aisha's shoulder. "No more avoiding. We're going to end this." Victoria blinked, confused. "How?" Amalia's voice hardened. "We'll catch him, on camera. You have the power to install surveillance. Use it. He must expose himself." Victoria hesitated, fear in her eyes. "You'll be the bait?" Amalia nodded. "He won't resist. Men like him never do." The plan was born that night under the garden lights. Cameras would be placed in the study, hallway, and kitchen, the spaces he used most. Tara, the journalist, would monitor remotely. Aisha would stay close to the staff, ensuring no one interfered. Amalia returned to her quarters and stood before the mirror. Her reflection looked back, calm and calculating. She whispered to herself, "You've faced worse men than him." By morning, the house glowed with luxury as usual, but there was a silent current running beneath its surface. Amalia dressed carefully, a soft red gown that shimmered under light, just enough to catch attention. She studied Charles's schedule: breakfast at 8, business calls till 10, then reading in the garden. She memorized every habit. The first attempt was subtle. At breakfast, she poured him tea with steady hands. "You look younger than your age, Mr. Sterling," she said with a polite smile. "No wonder people still talk about you like a legend." Charles chuckled, flattered. "Flattery from you is dangerous, my dear." His eyes lingered longer than usual. Victoria noticed but said nothing, sipping her juice with shaking fingers. The first seed was planted. 2 days later, in the garden, Amalia approached him while he read the newspaper. The morning sun touched the white marble chairs. She wore a silk blouse and simple gold earrings. "It's peaceful here," she said softly. "Sometimes too peaceful." He lowered the paper slightly. "You think peace is a bad thing?" "Sometimes peace hides too much noise," she replied. He smiled faintly. "You remind me of someone, Rebecca, my late wife." His voice softened. Same grace, same fire. Amalia let her hand brush his arm as she leaned to pick a flower. "You must miss her dearly." "Fur. Balm." I do, he said. The house is emptier without her. Maybe it just needs the right company, she whispered, walking away. He watched her go, eyes following every step. Hidden behind a hedge, one of the cameras blinked red. That night, the corridors were dark from a power glitch. Amalia carried a lantern as she walked toward her room. Charles appeared from the shadows, his shirt half-buttoned. "Still awake?" he asked with that slow, deliberate tone. "I couldn't sleep," she replied, her voice calm. "This house feels restless." He stepped closer, eyes scanning her face. "You're different from the others, not afraid. Maybe I just hide it better." He smiled faintly, brushing a finger along her arm. "Don't play games with me." Amalia tilted her head, meeting his gaze. "You started this game, Mr. Sterling." The air thickened. For a moment, neither moved. Then she turned away, leaving him standing in the dim corridor. Cameras above caught his smirk and the frustration in his clenched fists. Flashback. As Amalia sat by her window later that night, her mind slipped backward to the smell of smoke, the screams, the night her parents died in a house fire. She remembered the uncle who took her in, the one who promised safety but tried to touch her when she was barely 14. She remembered running barefoot into the cold rain, swearing she'd never let another man steal her voice again. That was the night Amalia was born anew, the survivor, the fighter, the woman who used intelligence as her armor. 3 days later, it happened. Charles called for her in his study. He was alone, the room dim, his glass of whiskey half full. The cameras were rolling. He gestured to the chair across from him. "You've been avoiding me." "I've been busy, sir." He stood and walked around her. "You think I don't notice? The way you look at me. The way you linger. I'm engaged to your son, Mr. Sterling." He laughed low. "You'll marry him, yes. But you and we understand each other better, don't we?" Amalia rose, heart pounding, her eyes steady. "Mr. Sterling, this game ends now," she said, her tone low but firm. She moved slightly away, letting the distance between them thicken with tension. His gaze darkened, the silence charged, yet she remained composed. The room felt smaller, filled with the pulse of power and control shifting from him to her. "You should stop," she repeated, her voice sharp with warning. He reached out, his voice dropping. "I could make you powerful. I could make you disappear. Which do you prefer?" Her eyes widened. "You wouldn't dare," he sneered. "Dare? You wouldn't be the first. I've helped many before you guaranteed their comfort, their success. I could make sure you marry my son and give you more money than you've ever dreamed of for your little business. All I ask is your loyalty." His smile twisted darker. "Refuse me, and you could end up like Ruth." He paused, realizing he'd said too much, then tried to recover. "Forget what I said. I didn't mean." Amalia's eyes flared. "So you admit it?" He straightened, arrogance returning. "No one would ever believe you. You're a struggling girl playing rich. And I'm Charles Sterling. If you don't accept my terms, I'll ruin you." Amalia gasped. "You monster." He stepped closer. "Careful what names you call me, my dear. People disappear every day. Don't make me add you to the list." That was the moment he sealed his fate. Every word, every threat, recorded clearly. Amalia's voice trembled with contained fury. "I'll make sure the world hears that." She left the room, slamming the door behind her. In the hallway, Victoria waited, pale and shaking. "You got it?" Amalia nodded. Every word. Tara's voice came through the phone speaker. "It's recorded, backed up, and already duplicated online. He can't erase it." But Charles suspected something. The next day, he followed Aisha through the halls, cornering her by the laundry room. "You've been talking to her, haven't you?" he hissed. "You forget who owns this house." Aisha trembled. "No, sir, I just—" He grabbed her wrist hard, his grip firm and menacing. His voice dropped low, a quiet growl that made her skin crawl. The air between them thickened with threat, his posture towering and invasive. He leaned close enough that she could feel the chill of his breath, not in intimacy but in danger. "If you ever open that mouth again," he warned, his words deliberate, You'll vanish just like the others. From behind the corner, Amalia filmed the entire thing with her phone. 1 week later, the charity gala. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers. Music filled the air. Charles Sterling, in his finest tuxedo, raised a glass before the cameras. Tonight, we honor the women who build our future. Amalia stood in the crowd, wearing the same red gown from their first encounter. Her calm face hid a storm. Victoria stood beside her, hand trembling against a wineglass. Aisha stood near the stage, eyes locked on Tara at the back of the hall. Charles continued, smiling for the cameras. A society that uplifts women uplifts itself. Tara gave the signal. The screen behind him flickered. Suddenly, the footage played Charles's voice filling the hall. I own the police, the press, the politicians. Ask Ruth if she believed I wouldn't. Oh wait, she's dead. Gasps erupted. The room fell into chaos. Glasses shattered, reporters raised their cameras. Charles froze, his face draining of color. Turn that off, he shouted. Amalia stepped forward, her voice sharp as a blade. Ask him where Ruth is. He spun toward her, rage blazing. You did this. He lunged, and before anyone could move, Amalia kicked him hard in the chest. He stumbled back, crashing into the wine table. The hall went silent. Victoria's voice rang out, cold and clear. That's your hero, everyone. The man who preaches about women while burying them in shame. The crowd erupted again. Phones filmed every second. Amalia turned to leave, her gown brushing the marble floor. Outside, thunder rolled and rain poured heavily. She walked out into it without looking back. Tara's car waited by the gate. It's all over the internet, she said softly. Amalia nodded, raindrops streaking her face. Good, she whispered. Now let the world see him for who he really is. The world did not sleep that night. By dawn, every news outlet, blog, and gossip column had one name on their front page: Charles Sterling. The video of his threats, his arrogance, and Amalia's kick had gone viral beyond control. What began as whispers turned into headlines. The man once hailed as a philanthropist and icon of integrity was now the face of shame. Charles tried to contain the damage. He called his lawyer, his board members, his political allies. None picked up. His phone buzzed endlessly with notifications, messages from people withdrawing their support. Every sponsor, every business partner began to distance themselves. His company's stock plummeted. He was drowning in the very power he once used to crush others. Victoria watched from the bedroom window as he paced like a trapped lion, his once perfect composure broken. You destroyed me, he growled when he finally turned to her. She met his gaze steadily. No, Charles, you destroyed yourself. Meanwhile, Amalia stayed in Tara's apartment for safety. The night had been long, filled with calls from reporters, messages of support and hate alike. Aisha slept on the couch, clutching a blanket tightly. She'd been crying since they left the mansion. Tara sat at her laptop, scanning through the flood of online reactions. He's finished, she said quietly. There's already a government investigation. The police can't ignore this one. Amalia nodded, exhaustion heavy in her eyes. Good. Let him face what Ruth couldn't. 2 days later, the Sterling mansion became a fortress of chaos. Protesters gathered at the gates. Placards read, "Justice for Ruth," and no more silence. Drones hovered above the property as reporters shouted questions at the guards. Inside, Ethan Sterling slammed the newspaper down. Dad, how could you do this? Charles sneered, unshaven and wild-eyed. You believe that maid over your father? Ethan's voice cracked. I saw the video. Everyone did. I didn't want to believe it, but it's your voice. Victoria entered the room quietly. Ethan, let him face the truth. It's time we stopped protecting him. Charles turned on her. You ungrateful woman, after everything I gave you. You gave me fear, she replied softly, and I'm done living in it. Later that week, the board of Sterling Industries held an emergency meeting. They voted unanimously to remove Charles as CEO. The company's spokesperson released a statement announcing his suspension pending investigation. It was the final blow to his empire. At sunset, police cars pulled up to the gates. The world watched live as Charles Sterling was escorted out in handcuffs. Cameras flashed, protesters cheered. Aisha stood in the crowd, tears streaming down her cheeks. "He can't hurt anyone again," Tara said beside her. Amalia watched silently, her expression unreadable. Justice had come, but it felt cold, heavy, incomplete. No punishment could bring Ruth back. Weeks passed. The scandal consumed every conversation. Other victims came forward, maids, assistants, even a secretary from his office years ago. Each story echoed the same horror. The police opened multiple cases, while social media crowned Amalia a hero. Ethan left the city, unable to bear the shame. Victoria filed for divorce and moved into a small apartment downtown, finally free of the mansion that had been her cage. Amalia focused on rebuilding her life quietly. With Tara's help, she opened an interior design studio in honor of Ruth. She called it Ruth Interiors. The studio specialized in transforming old, dark spaces into bright sanctuaries, a metaphor for what they'd lived through. Aisha became her assistant while attending night classes. Sometimes they'd sit together after work and talk about Ruth, the way she laughed, her shy smile, her kindness. One evening, Tara came into the office holding her phone. "You've seen this?" she asked. Amalia shook her head. It was a live broadcast, Charles Sterling in court, pale and defeated. He pleaded guilty to multiple charges. The judge's gavel came down, echoing like thunder. 15 years without parole. Tara lowered the phone. "It's done." Amalia sat back, her eyes distant. "No, Tara, it's only beginning. Every woman who saw that video now knows silence is a choice, and next time, they'll choose to speak." Outside, rain began to fall, soft, cleansing rain, the kind that carries away the dust and pain. Aisha stepped into the office doorway, smiling faintly. "We did it, Ma." Amalia smiled back. "No," Ruth did. "We just gave her voice an echo." They stood there, 3 women bound not by tragedy but by courage, watching the rain blur the city lights. Justice had come, not loud, not perfect, but true.